In the world of opinions about automobiles, it's always a very good idea to form your own. This vehicle specifically, for example, that I'm driving, this is the Ineos Grenadier, and it's a vehicle I've been wanting to drive for well over a year. But I was concerned because I've heard a few good things and I've heard a handful of bad things. The steering is just terrible, I heard. On-road manners are gross. The build quality is mixed. But then I spoke to someone who put a lot of miles on one. A gent by the name of Scott Brady, who covers all things overland and off-road, who's basically traversed Africa in one. He's probably put more miles on one of these than anyone else outside of the R&D team. And he said, don't listen to them. The car is built like a tank. It's excellent. I love it. All right, let me form my own opinion. I'm glad I waited. I'm glad I listened to Scott. Because this thing is fantastic. All right, let's back up, because this thing, the Grenadier, it's not for everybody. It is very much for me. This is the off-roader that when people say, this is what I would want in my dream off-roader, this is the vehicle they're talking about. Live axles, triple lock diffs, simple buttons, analog interactions, a nice torquey engine without being unnecessarily overly powerful. You know, plenty of power is a good thing too. It doesn't need to be insane. This is all of that. But will those customers, once they actually drive it, go, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if I meant what I said. Let's back up, because we will dive into all of that. I keep saying back up a lot. Let's talk first, though, about how this thing looks, because it looks fantastic. To dive into why it looks the way it does, we need to back up. I should have planned this out better. We need to back up a step further and talk about how and why it was created. It's a man in the UK named Jim Sutcliffe, who owns the Ineos petrochemical company. He's basically one of, if not the richest person in the United Kingdom. When the Land Rover said, hey, we're gonna change the Defender, he goes, well, let me continue to make the old one, because I want the old one. And I get it. The old one is iconic and legendary for a wide variety of reasons. Land Rover said, go fuck yourself. And he said, no, I have enough money to not accept that answer. And so he said, I'm gonna build my own Land Rover Defender, and I'm gonna call it the Ineos, after my petrochemical company. You know, same name, why not? So he built this, and Land Rover said, hey, you can't do that, we're gonna sue you. And he said, come at me, bro. And they did, and they lost, and now we have this. What very much looks like the prior version of the Defender, mixed with a dash of G-Wagon mixed in there for good measure. Sutcliffe said, let's make this vehicle. I'm gonna make it like the old school Defender. I'm gonna give it a better engine, and we're gonna figure out how we're gonna get this done. So he reached out to the people at Magna Steyr, which are known for building very good things. He bought a basically brand new production facility from Mercedes-Benz, who said, we don't want to build these cars over here anymore. And Sutcliffe said, we'll take that. So basically a brand new facility to Mercedes-Benz level of requirements. Magna Steyr's underpinnings for the research and development. BMW's power plant, a turbo straight six. Can't get better than that, if you know, just power delivery and solid, reliable engines that make good power and torque and all that stuff. 8-speed gearbox, real deal transfer case. This is that vehicle. When I initially heard that, you know, a billionaire took his ball and went home and said, I'm gonna make my own ball, screw you guys. You know, the first thing is, you know, oh, rich guy just always getting what he wants, blah, blah, blah. And then you think about it for anything more than half a second, you realize it's actually pretty badass and awesome. He said, Land Rover, you're fucking that thing up. Let me say, I do love the modern Defender, but I love the older Defender more. I do like and enjoy the modern Defender. But it's not rugged. It's capable, but it's not rugged. It's a luxury fashion item that also happens to go off-road. To Land Rover these days, based on the current people in charge, all Land Rover cares about is, do my vehicles look good outside of the Erewhon in LA or in downtown New York? They can still do good things. I've won Land Rover Trek, the Media Wave, 3 years in a row. So I fully understand what Land Rovers can do, and it's nice to see that they still can do it. But the people at the top just want to make sure they care about looks first, capability second. There's people in the company who still care about capability. Back to this though. Basically, Sutcliffe said, I'm gonna make the Land Rover I wish Land Rover was making, and I'm gonna name it after a pub. That's awesome. If I had all that money, if I'm thinking about this, if I had all the money in the world, where money basically doesn't matter, and I wanted to build my dream off-roader and then name it after a bar because fucking why not? That's fantastic. That's exactly what I would do. So it's not just the case of like, oh, I have so much money, I can do what I choose. It's more than that. He didn't like what they did. He gave them the middle finger. This is that middle finger, and I love it. On the outside, like I said, Land Rover Defender-esque, very much so, 110-esque. But built nicely. This one has steel wheels with KO2s. Like right off the bat, we're doing great. The green paint is fantastic. The face looks good. The extra aux lights in the nose. And then you take it a step further, everything is functional. The doors can hold up to 80 pounds each. The roof rails are functional. And then the sidebars where you think they would put some safari glass, which I actually would have liked, but the reason is then you have to re-engineer the roof completely. I get it. Instead, they put grab bars that are functional tie-down points with the optional upgrade of pre-wired electrical up there. If you pop the caps open, the pigtails are there to just run electrical. It's ready to go, and then the aux switches are right here in this panel. Brilliant. They're thinking about it. They're good to go. And then, of course, it's got the widow wadder, but there's skid plate protection. You can get these with the snorkel if you want the raised intake. So style-wise, excellent. Looks good. They should offer one in sand glow yellow as a further fuck you to Land Rover, because Land Rover doesn't like colors on their Defender. It's black, gray, or white. Yes, you can get it in a few other colors, but not the good ones. Like the V8s are only like these dark, moody colors. Get out of here with that. On the inside, it's not luxury. The Land Rover is nicer inside. The Defender is nicer inside, but this is functionally aesthetic. The aesthetic of functionality with a mix of like, you know, a love of aviation here over my head. The seats are I don't like care for leather. These seats are comfortable and you can wipe them down. The floor, you can pull some plugs and rinse it out. The center stack is just there. The buttons, big chunky buttons that are for purposeful button pushes that you can do while wearing big chunky gloves. Everything requires, you know, your attention to push it. It's all analog and that works great. I love the look and feel of this transfer case lever. And it's not a, you know, just a button press of the transfer case. You have to know what you're doing when you're going to put this into the modes to use it appropriately, and I appreciate that. Now, on the flip side, there are things I don't like about the interior. There's this little gauge cluster in front of me that's basically just for warning lights or idiot lights, whereas the rest is over here. Why couldn't they just toss a simple speed display and a rev counter in this little display so I don't have to look over here to see it? I disagree with that. The rest of the displays though, I can say what gear I'm in at all times, which I always appreciate. There's altimeters, there's, you know, off-road modes, and then there's this little Grenadier logo here that you can upgrade with an altimeter and a compass, which is kind of cool. I like the display for the secondary stuff. I wish the gauge, the speed and the rev counter should be in front of me. I don't want to glance over here to see that. But the rest of the interior is great. It's comfortable. This is gimmicky, this panel, but it also is nice that it's real buttons. You're not diving through menus. And then things like off-road mode requires a press and then a confirmation press. And this isn't like an off-road mode where it alters the like suspension and stuff like that. Instead, it turns off parking sensors. It turns off the seatbelt warning chime. It turns off the door open alert, so you can hop in and out of the truck to spot trails and do all of that stuff. Then there's the waiting mode. If you put it in waiting mode, it turns the fan off in the engine. Just smart choices for a dedicated off-road vehicle. So, under the hood, BMW power plant. It's the super motor, which is hilarious to me. Here it's making a little over 280 horse, over 330 torque, backed up by that ZF 8-speed gearbox. The fun thing about it being that motor, detuned, is that it's understressed. However, there are so many aftermarket solutions to add more power. So my brain is already thinking, if I got one of these, what could I do to juice that mamma jamma up? And the answer is plenty. So it already feels good though. This is an appropriate amount of power for something that I think these weigh 5,600 or 5,700 pounds. Good power there, fantastic gearbox, full-time 4-wheel drive, you know, high range, low range, and then again, center diff, rear diff, front diff, all lockable. To lock the front, you obviously have to lock the rear first, which is fine. That makes sense. You're not going to need to just lock the front. This one is wearing the winch up front too. Speaking of technical, I forgot to mention the style of the thing. But it just, now let me get to the part where people complain about is the on-road driving dynamics, because hilariously, this has a recirculating ball steering system, and it's geared like low, or slowly, I guess I could say. I'm just gonna dive into the dirt here so we can talk about this for a moment. So, it's the only other vehicle that does that is the Wrangler, and people complain about the Wrangler steering feel. And so when people jump into this, they're expecting like G-Wagon or Defender level of steering. It's not that. To me, however, it is wonderful. I daily drive my 91 Montero. This feels significantly better than my Montero, and I can drive my Montero very well. Like, I know my vehicle. I can whip it on the freeway. I'm good to go in my Montero. The reason they did that is for like just simple based off-road steering requirements that you get with a recirculating ball paired with the live axle setup. So I love it. It's hefty, and it's real heft. It's not fake heft dialed in. This is, you're babysitting it more than your average vehicle, you know, at speeds, as your speeds climb up. You're paying attention. You're feeling the movement. It's doing stuff, but it's not like it's death wobbling like a Wrangler, and I don't know if that's an issue here, but I haven't felt none of that. I've put it through curvy roads, and I can drive it just fine. It will return to center a little bit. I know people are like, it doesn't return to center. It does a little bit. Physics dictates that that's naturally going to happen, but not like a modern steering feeling vehicle. So sometimes what you put into the steering, you're also pulling back out. Once you get used to that, and if you know that going in, this is a wonderful, brilliant machine, because I'm fine with that compromise as it relates to the benefits for the off-roading. I know it will turn some people off. It is a curious and bold choice, but again, this is the middle finger vehicle, and that's just another aspect, that's a knuckle on the finger of it all. But the more I've driven this, the more I have fallen in love with it. This is basically, I'm just cutting into the dirt here, this is basically what I want. This is a modern version of my Montero. The boxy shape, the wonderful styling, the very good go anywhere mountain goat setup underneath the running gear, and then with, you know, a better engine than my Montero. I don't want to dive too deeply into my engine issues, but I have a newer engine in there. It's just still underpowered. I want more power, baby. Almost hit a bird, but it flew away. This is not a vehicle for everyone, but this is the vehicle that if you said, I want a modern off-road machine, this is it. I want a modern, let me back that up. It's a modern, capable, I'm saying it wrong. It is an analog off-roader. That's what I'm trying to say, with a modern powertrain and some modern amenities. Here's the downside of my time with the vehicle. Where I want to go is out there, on these hills out here. They are just finishing putting out the fire. This is part of the airport fire. Those are my trails, my mountain bike trails and my off-road trails. The hills were burning. I cannot drive this in the manner in which it deserves to be driven. I cannot test the off-road nature of it because I haven't had time this week to get out. I have to drive hours if I can't go here. And I'm very, very sad about that. The only dust I'm getting on it is when I veer off the road. I'm gonna turn the camera around so you can see what I'm doing at some point, to just put a little bit of dirt on this thing because it demands it. On road, however, I kind of want one of these. This is built for me. I want the pickup truck version. I want Go Fast Campers to build me a custom camping setup in the back of it. I want my bike rack, a one-up in the tail hitch to put my bike in the back of it. I want to go on adventures. I want to drive mountains. I want to ford rivers. This can ford up to like 34.5 inches. The doors shut with a satisfying, nearly G-Wagon-like clunk because they seal water out up to like the speaker level. It's awesome. This is the vehicle when you say, oh man, I wish I had a thing that could do what in my head off-road vehicles can do. This is it. From the factory. I don't know what I would change. I would just add to it in terms of what I mentioned with the Go Fast and Dometic fridge, and it's already wired to handle all of that. I've got the switchgear for it. It has the differentials I need. This vehicle was built for me. I just wish I could afford it. It starts in the mid $70,000 range, and if you check every box, you know, you're over 100 if you're checking everything. This one's probably 80. This is in the Fieldmaster, so that one can get leather seats and an upgraded sound system, and I do not give a shit about any of that. If I needed to upgrade the speakers, I would do it myself in the aftermarket. So that price initially is like, man, that's a lot. It's not, because if you price it against Wranglers, and this is so much cooler than a Jeep Wrangler. Wranglers are crazy expensive these days. If you like, well, what about an actual older Defender? Get out of here with that. Have you seen the prices of those? People want stupid money for those. These resto mod companies are taking the old Defenders, which there is a finite amount of, and they're charging many six figures. And they're always done with just grotesque interiors. They're done with a handful of a few exceptions. There are a few companies that get it. But typically they have horrible, shitty wheels and tires on them. They're made for rich guys who think that's what a Defender should be. They'll never see dirt. They're dog shit. You know, sometimes they have LS3s. That's cool. Twisted makes some sick Defenders. My dream truck is a Twisted Defender 130. But maybe, and the price of that is untouchable for me. But this isn't untouchable. This is in the realm of possibility if I sold some things and made some moves to make things happen. Maybe if I ever finish my goddamn Mustang, then I can sell it and sell the Montero and have my wagon, yes, that is still around, and this, and have my V8 wagon sleeper car and my off-road go anywhere camp rig. That might be the move. That's how much I like this. I need to drive the pickup truck. I need to take it off-road. I've spoken to people who have actually put this through the paces off-road, and they only sing its highest praises. And it's people whose opinions I value, because I said at the beginning of this, form your own opinions. But I am listening to them because I haven't had the ability to do what I should be doing with this vehicle. However, I love it. I want one. I don't know what else to say about it. I love it. I want one. I mean, that's kind of the highest praise I can, when I want a vehicle, like GR Corolla, I love it, I want one. 911 GTS, I love it, I want one. Ineos Grenadier, I need to drive the pickup truck, but Ineos Grenadier, I love it, I fucking want one. Now, let's back up a minute, because this thing is also not for everyone. Okay, why is that? You were gonna go slow, then fast. Pick your fucking... Ooh, look at those legs. Gonna demonstrate recirculating ball steering.